Ötzi the Iceman, the astonishing 5,300-year-old mummy unearthed from the icy embrace of the Italian Alps, is back in the spotlight with a groundbreaking revelation. What jaw-dropping secrets has Ötzi the Iceman disclosed this time? Imagine the shock of discovering a cousin from 300 generations ago. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what happened here with Ötzi. It's like uncovering a family reunion spanning thousands of years. Get ready, because we're about to uncover the thrilling discovery that's got scientists buzzing with excitement. Stay tuned to find out why sequencing Ötzi's DNA has shocked researchers around the world. Before we dive into Ötzi's fascinating story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video to show your support. Ötzi the Iceman is one of the most fascinating and important archaeological discoveries of all time. In 1991, explorers found him frozen in the Alps near the border between Austria and Italy. The discovery of Ötzi was actually a lucky accident. On September 19, 1991, two German tourists, Helmut and Erika Simon, were hiking in the Ötztal Alps on their way to the Simalaun mountain. As they were crossing a glacier, they noticed something sticking out of the ice. At first, they thought it was a piece of trash or a backpack. However, as they got closer, they realized it was a human body. Shocked and scared, they initially believed they'd stumbled upon a recent victim of a mountaineering accident. Reacting quickly, the Simons took some photos and marked the spot with a stick before hurrying down to the nearest hut to report their find. The next day, a team of mountain gendarmes and the hut keeper went to the site to investigate further. Upon closer examination, it became clear that this was not a recent body, but an ancient one, perfectly preserved by the ice. The news of this discovery quickly spread, and researchers carefully extracted Ötzi from his icy grave, sparking worldwide interest. Scientists were astonished by the level of preservation, as Ötzi still had his clothing, tools, and even the contents of his stomach intact. Investigators initially tried to free the body from the ice using a pneumatic drill and ice axes, but bad weather forced them to give up. They left the body partially exposed, covering it with a tarpaulin. Over the next few days, several other people visited the site, including journalists and famous mountaineers such as Hans Kammerlander and Reinhold Messner. They all assumed the body was that of a modern hiker who had died recently, perhaps a few years ago. However, on September 22nd, a forensic expert from Innsbruck named Rainer Henn arrived at the scene and realized that the body was much older than anyone had thought. He noticed that the clothes and equipment were made of primitive materials such as leather, fur, grass, and wood. He also observed tattoos on the body and a copper axe, which indicated that it belonged to the Copper Age around 3000 BC. Henn immediately contacted the archaeologist Konrad Spindler, who confirmed his suspicions. Recognizing the significance of the find, they decided to extract the body and transport it to Innsbruck for further examination. The careful extraction and transportation marked the beginning of an extensive scientific investigation that would eventually reveal a wealth of information about Ötzi and his era. Once in Innsbruck, researchers conducted detailed analyses of Ötzi's body, clothing, and tools. They discovered that Ötzi had lived over 5,300 years ago during the late Neolithic period and had likely died from an arrow wound in his shoulder. His remarkably preserved physique provided a rare window into prehistoric life, revealing everything from his food and overall health to the tools and materials that his ancestors used. Ötzi's tattoos, for example, suggested a form of early acupuncture or therapeutic treatment, while the contents of his stomach provided clues about his last meals. Finding the copper axe with him showed that people at the time were expert metalworkers. The following day, they were able to remove the body and some of the nearby objects, including a bow, a quiver, a knife, and a net. They placed them in a wooden casket and transported them by helicopter to Innsbruck. Researchers sent the body and artifacts to the Institute of Forensic Medicine. A team of experts from numerous disciplines, including archaeology, anthropology, radiography, pathology, genetics, and botany, thoroughly examined them there. They conducted a variety of tests and analyses, including radiocarbon dating, X-rays, CT scans, DNA extraction, and pollen identification. Researchers learned about Ötzi's age, height, weight, health, nutrition, clothing, tools, origin, and cause of death. Ötzi was around 45 years old, 1.6 meters tall, and weighed 50 kilograms. He had brown eyes and dark hair, and his blood type was O. He had various diseases and injuries, including arthritis, whipworm, tooth decay, fractured ribs, and a head wound. He ate a healthy diet consisting of grains, meat, fruits, and vegetables. Was the first attempt to collect and analyze DNA from Ötzi in 1992 successful? What challenges did researchers face during this process? Researchers made this attempt shortly after his discovery. However, they faced a difficult task because environmental conditions and modern human interaction had degraded and polluted the DNA. Scientists retrieved a bone sample from Ötzi's pelvis and sequenced the Iceman's DNA. This was a groundbreaking achievement because it was one of the first and largest ancient DNA data collections ever created. DNA sequencing revealed insights into Ötzi's genetic makeup, ancestry, health, and potential relatives. Ötzi belonged to a rare genetic lineage known as haplogroup K1, which is still found in some modern populations, particularly in Europe and the Near East. This shows that Ötzi had a complex ancestry that included migrations and the blending of diverse populations over thousands of years. Ötzi's maternal ancestors were among the first farmers who migrated from Anatolia to Europe around 8,000 years ago. His paternal lineage, however, remained unknown because the Y chromosome DNA was too damaged to analyze. Another important discovery was that Ötzi had genetic variations linked to diseases and features in modern humans. For example, a mutation raised his likelihood of developing heart disease, which is associated with hardened arteries and atherosclerosis. He also had a mutation that rendered him lactose intolerant, which means he couldn't digest dairy items. He also possessed brown eyes, dark hair, and dark skin, as well as a gene that predisposed him to male pattern baldness. His blood type was O positive, the most common worldwide. Comparing his DNA to that of thousands of people from different regions, scientists were surprised to find living relatives. They identified 19 men from the region where Ötzi was located who shared a common ancestry. These men are distant cousins of Ötzi, separated by about 300 generations. Ötzi's relatives belong to a broader genetic cluster that spans Europe and the Near East, indicating that they are not restricted to a particular region. More shocking results from a 2008 DNA sequencing project emerged. One of the most remarkable achievements in Ötzi's study was uncovering the whole picture by sequencing his complete genome. This was done using a new method capable of producing huge amounts of DNA data in a short period of time. The genome sequencing allowed researchers to investigate Ötzi's genetic history, features, and lineage, comparing him to present populations and other ancient humans. In 2008, Ötzi's DNA sequencing unveiled his rare maternal lineage, K1F, suggesting he belonged to a secluded group in the Alps. His skin tone, dark hair, and brown eyes were characteristics of early European farmers. These genetic features set him apart from later populations influenced by migrations and dietary changes. Ötzi possessed genetic variations linked to diseases and health issues, including lactose intolerance, a higher risk of coronary heart disease, arthritis, and blood clots. Some of these variations might have added to his poor health and eventual death, as he also had dental decay, parasites, infections, and wounds. Do you find Ötzi's tale equally fascinating as we do? Why not take a moment to subscribe and like this video? Ötzi had a strong Anatolian farmer ancestry, which was rare for his period and place. Most Copper Age Europeans had a more diverse heritage, with contributions from both Anatolian farmers and local hunter-gatherers. Ötzi's farmer heritage could indicate he was a recent migrant to the Alps or belonged to a distinct cultural group that practiced endogamy or marrying within the same group. Ötzi did not have any steppe ancestry. Researchers excluded the steppe ancestry from the updated analysis due to modern DNA contamination. The steppe ancestry is distinctive of those who spread Indo-European languages and culture over Europe and Asia beginning around 4,900 years ago. Ötzi lived before the expansion, and his language and culture are unknown. However, a fresh and improved genome sequence of Ötzi was published in 2023. A team of researchers from Research and the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology accomplished this task. They based it on a sample retrieved from Ötzi's pelvic bone. They employed strict quality control procedures to prevent contamination from modern DNA. Additionally, they utilized cutting-edge sequencing equipment which can read longer and more precise DNA fragments. To learn more about Ötzi's origins and traits, they compared his genome to those of other ancient and modern humans, as well as other species. One of the unexpected conclusions of the new study was that Ötzi shared more common ancestry with early farmers. These farmers migrated from Anatolia or modern-day Turkey to Europe about 8,000 years ago. Researchers compared this to the steppe herders from Eastern Europe who arrived later. This contradicts an earlier investigation that said Ötzi originated from herders on the steppe. The researchers explained that modern DNA contamination likely caused the prior result, which distorted the interpretation of Ötzi's ancestry. The latest study also confirmed that Ötzi belonged to a rare branch of the Y chromosome, haplogroup G, which is still present in select people in Sardinia and Corsica. The new investigation revealed that Ötzi's skin was darker than previously believed. The researchers examined many genetic variations that affect skin pigmentation. They found that Ötzi possessed a mix of genes that resulted in a skin tone similar to those from the Middle East or South Asia. Ötzi's skin color remained similar to his mummified body, indicating that the mummification technique did not dramatically alter his appearance. Researchers have also shed light on why Ötzi had such dark skin even before he was mummified. The answer lies in his ancestry and his diet. Ötzi's DNA revealed he had more early farmer heritage than other ancient Europeans, resulting in dark skin, brown eyes, and lactose intolerance. However, his body had hunter-gatherer characteristics, such as a slim build, a long nose, and tattoos. Ötzi was also found to have genetic variants for male pattern baldness, which could be the reason for his bear fur hat. The high level of ultraviolet radiation that Ötzi was exposed to in the Alps most likely resulted in his dark complexion. Living in sunny places tends to produce more melanin, a pigment that shields the skin from UV rays. But melanin also inhibits the synthesis of vitamin D, which is necessary for healthy bones and a functioning immune system. Food is a good source of vitamin D, particularly animal products, including dairy, meat, fish, and eggs. The remains of ibex and deer found in Ötzi's stomach testify to his meat-heavy diet. This might have made up for his deficient vitamin D synthesis and kept his skin tone dark. But Ötzi's complexion was not similar to any other in his day or region. After switching from hunting and gathering to agriculture, early European farmers adjusted to the changing environment and nutrition, which resulted in skin tones lighter than Ötzi's. Farmers needed lighter skin to synthesize more vitamin D from the sun, and they consumed far less vitamin D in their diet than hunter-gatherers did. Light skin tone genes did not become common until 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, by which time Ötzi had already passed away. The latest research confirmed certain information regarding Ötzi's physical attributes and state of health. Researchers had already determined Ötzi's type O blood, lactose sensitivity, and brown eyes based on the results of the earlier genome analysis. Additionally, They verified that Ötzi possessed a hereditary susceptibility to male pattern baldness, indicating that he was probably bald or almost bald at the time of his death. Additionally, they found a greater number of genetic variations linked to a higher risk of cardiovascular illnesses, including atherosclerosis, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. These results are in line with the indications of heart issues and clogged arteries found in Ötzi's body. The manner in which Ötzi actually died is a matter of debate among scientists. The most widely accepted theory holds that Ötzi was a victim of a violent struggle, possibly a feud between family members or a tribal battle. This theory states that one or more enemies attacked Ötzi, chasing him up the mountains. They shot him in the back with an arrow before he could flee. When he got to the top of the mountains, he collapsed and passed away. Several pieces of evidence support this theory. Researchers found blood from at least 4 other people on his clothing and gear. They observed indications of a head injury he sustained a few days prior to his death. Additionally, he was carrying a copper axe, a priceless and uncommon weapon that might have made him a target for robbery or jealousy. A darker theory suggests that Ötzi was a ceremonial offering made to the gods or the ghosts of the mountains. This belief holds that Ötzi was a chosen person who agreed to die in order to protect his tribe. As part of a traditional ritual, he was shot with an arrow and buried at a sacred site. The argument is based on the belief that people of the Copper Age practiced human sacrifice as a part of a complex religious system. They believe that the place where Ötzi was discovered was a hotspot for these kinds of activities. Some of the materials discovered around his body support this notion. These include a birch bark container containing charcoal and embers, probably used in a fire ritual, and a net that could have been used to conceal the body. Some researchers argue that Ötzi's tattoos, mainly on his back and legs, were part of a ritual or healing process. A third idea holds that Ötzi was a hunter or shepherd who died in the mountains either naturally or accidentally. This hypothesis holds that Ötzi was a simple man who moved with his animals or followed his prey, leading a nomadic or pastoral life. Accidentally, someone shot him with an arrow, possibly by a rival hunter trying to frighten him away or by another hunter who mistook him for an animal. He made an attempt to go to a safe location, but died from his wound. The basic idea of this thesis is that there was little to no violence and conflict throughout the Copper Age, and that all people lived in harmony and peace. The research on Ötzi's diet supports this notion, as he consumed meat and dairy components indicative of a pastoral lifestyle. The theory gains further support from identifying several of the plants he ate, indicating his knowledge of the alpine region and its resources. He died of an arrow wound in his left shoulder, which resulted in major bleeding and shock. The discovery of Ötzi sparked worldwide interest and media coverage. After his discovery in the Ötztal Alps, he got the nickname Ötzi. He was also known as the Iceman, Simulaun Man, Frozen Fritz, and Trojan Iceman. He was the topic of numerous books, documentaries, exhibitions, and even a film. He also provoked a great deal of discussion and controversy, particularly regarding who should own and preserve him. Austria and Italy entered into a court battle regarding who had jurisdiction over the location of his body, which was near the border and had undergone multiple historical changes. The body has provided significant information about human ancestry, but it also has continued to be a source of controversy between nations seeking ownership. The first dispute emerged between Austria and Italy, the two nations bordering the location of Ötzi's discovery. Though it was only a few meters beyond the border, the find was precisely on the Italian side. At first, the Austrian authorities claimed Ötzi as their own, bringing him to Innsbruck for analysis. But the Italians objected, saying that since Ötzi had been discovered on their soil, he should have been their property. Furthermore, they emphasized that Ötzi's gear and attire indicated that he originated in the Southern Alps and that his DNA matched that of modern-day Italians. Following an extended legal dispute, the two nations decided to divide Ötzi's custody and he was sent to Bolzano, Italy's South Tyrol Museum of Archaeology. But the dispute didn't stop there. Another claimant emerged, the locals of the Ötztal Valley, where Ötzi was discovered. They regard Ötzi as one of their forefathers and are a minority community in Italy with its own language and customs. They insisted on Ötzi being given back to them and having a say in his research and exhibition. They also wanted to bury him in accordance with their customs. They claimed that Ötzi was a human being with rights and dignity, not just an object, and that he should be treated with respect and recognition. Additionally, they asserted that Ötzi represented their identity and legacy, and that he could help them preserve and promote their culture. The governments of Italy and Austria, on the other hand, disagreed, stating that Ötzi belonged to everyone and was part of humanity's common history. They argued that Ötzi was an important source of knowledge in science. If you enjoyed learning about Ötzi the Iceman and want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks for watching!